Hello and welcome back to another episode of Stu's Reviews. So I'm super excited to take a look at today's gadget, which is this. The Mi Band 3. This is the third generation of Mi Band by Xiaomi, and it doesn't disappoint. With an OLED display that responds to both touch and movement, and a new deliciously curved design, it looks almost beautiful enough to eat. The band itself can be adjusted to extremely small and extremely large, and if black silicone isn't your style, the monitor can be removed from the strap, and there's one more thing. It's waterproof. Now, about a year ago, I did a review of the Mi Band 2, which is a Stu Reviews favourite. To be honest, the Mi Band 2 was one of the best fitness trackers I've ever tried for an extremely low price. It came to about 20 quid. Well, this is the updated version, and I'm really excited to see the differences and take a look whether or not they've made a positive change or a negative change. In respect to style, it hasn't changed very much since the Mi Band 2. It's largely the same size, it's largely the same form factor. It's elongated ovaloid, and it's got a kind of weird clasping system, very, very similar to the original one. The difference in design change will be that this has a curved top. It's a nice appearance. It's a good change from what they had previously, which was just flush and flat and a bit angular. The button has changed as well, whereas on the old one, it was still a capacitive touch. It was still just a touch button rather than an actual press button. But unlike the last one, it hasn't got these weird little ridges that apparently sent shivers down many people's spines when they touched it. I wasn't that bothered, but I was discussing this with a colleague recently, and he was saying that it felt horrendous to touch. Oh yes, and the display appears to be a lot clearer. It's very, very similar in terms of style, but I think it's slightly different, and it's also touchscreen as well, but we'll get onto that in just a second. Again, you can detach it from the band, which seems quite straightforward, so you can change out the bands. So yeah, realistically, it's not changed very much in terms of its style. So the style hasn't changed. Has the functionality changed though? Now that is the key. So let's take a quick look at the user interface before we go ahead and do anything else. Now, one thing the Mi Band 2 didn't have was this. You couldn't see your previous notifications. So in here, I can actually swipe and have a look at all of the notifications I've had, which is quite good. The writing's a bit cramped because it's on a small screen, but it's not too bad. It still gives you an idea of what's going on, and on a quick glimpse, it's quite easy to get a gist of who's writing to you or who's calling you and see what it is they want. Now, the next one, as we said, steps. You can also swipe to access things such as your distance, your calories burnt, and the battery life as well directly from here, which is nice. Swiping up to, put it back first. There we are, and then we can swipe up. Our heart rate, now we can press and hold here at the bottom, and it will read the heart rate, but we'll skip that. You've got today's weather, you've got tomorrow's weather, Sunday, today. So you can see weather quite clearly on there as well. It's really nice, that syncs with the app. And then more. So in here we've got a few options that we can change. We've got, first of all, a timer. We've got that, which is like a find device, but I don't really understand what that does. Haven't worked it out yet. I thought it was to find your phone, but when you do it, nothing happens. In fact, I'll try it now. See what happens. No. It says no. No idea what that does. Whether or not that's to pair up with certain devices or not, I'm not sure. Otherwise, it's done straight through the app. If we go to the next screen, we've got screen, and we can change some bits and bobs through here. So we can change the style of the watch face that we're using. I'm using this because it's classic. It's very much like the Mi Band 2 and the Amazfit Bip. And then the last button is about, so we can tap on that and see more information about the watch, such as its kind of compliance and its recyclability and boring things that you don't want to know about. But overall, that is the watch interface, and you can see it's very, very snappy, very fluid, and I'm really impressed with the touchscreen on this. So this is one area that Xiaomi have really upgraded the Mi Band. The user interface feels nicer, you can do more with it, it's snappier, and it's touchscreen, so it's definitely more tech related. So overall, I'm quite impressed with the changes they've made to the actual usability of the fitness tracker. But what about the app? Now the app we use is Mi Fit, which is exactly the same as the Mi Band 2 and the Amazfit Bip. So a lot of you are probably already used to this app, but let's dive in anyway, just in case you've never seen it. Opening it up, it looks relatively simple. Now, one thing I would say is that the syncing appears to be a lot faster with the Mi Band 3 than on the Mi Band 2. You can see that's going pretty quick. It's done within about 8-9 seconds or so. With the Mi Band 2, it takes a lot longer to sync. So they've obviously changed something there, even though on the surface it doesn't look like anything's changed. It may just be that the software of the Mi Band 3 is quicker and can transfer the information faster. Anyway, moving on to the app. You're met with an overall view of how your day is going. So your last activity, your current heart rate, your weight, which is connected to the Mi scales, which I have done a review of, and you can see a review of that in the link in the description below. But moving back to this, we can see how many steps we've done as well. So you can see I've only done 2,776 steps today. That's because my ankle is hurting, but I'll get onto that in a bit. If we tap on this here at the top, it shows us all the information on our day's activity, and we can also go back a day as well. So if we tap on that, so swiping left, we can access how many steps we've done over the previous few days. What's quite cool with this is that if you look just underneath the steps, it shows how many users you're ahead of, or the percentage of users you're ahead of. So it's a good gauge of how well you're doing in terms of your actual fitness compared to other people. Also on here, we've got last night's sleep, so we can pop in here and get information about how well you slept. And apparently here I slept better than 83% of users, which is probably incorrect because I feel terrible today. I feel so tired, it's unbelievable, but it doesn't matter. Now the orange bit, just after 23:47, you can see in the left there, that's when I got up to go to the toilet. So it does obviously work, and it does show me show when I'm awake, and it says I was awake for 2 minutes to pop to the loo. As well as this, it gives us a bit of information about how we can improve sleep. Stuff like don't drink coffee, exercise a bit more, and go to bed around 10 o'clock, because apparently it boosts your immune system. It's quite interesting. Let's pop back here. Again, going into things like your heart rate, you can see your resting heart rate throughout the days. Mine's around 60 usually, which is pretty good. Again, gives us more information here about how much aerobic, anaerobic activity we're doing. So really, it is a very in-depth app, but it's simple to use, and it looks great too. Now, just like the Mi Band 2, it doesn't have GPS built in, so you can't record the route that you've gone without your phone being near you. But you can do it with your phone and this together. So let's head off into Cardiff and record a quick bit of exercise to have a look at the results. Now, I'm going to tell you a very quick story. About 2 weeks ago, I fell off a wall that was about 2 meters high. Then I wrestled a tiger, and unfortunately the tiger hurt my ankle, which means I can't go for a run and gather some of the stats that the Mi Band 3 will gather on that run. So I've sent Ash around Cardiff Bay for a quick run just to gather some stats and some info so I can take a look at how the Mi Band 3 performs on a run.
It always starts the same way. Always the same way. Oh, Ash, do you want to come and give us a hand? we're filming something, I'm like, oh yeah, I'll give you a hand. Yeah, no worries. What do I have to do? All you have to do is just wear a sweatband and just, you know, have a walk down the barrage. Didn't realise I was going to be looking like a 118 man. I need a bike. This thing better work.
It's lovely, yeah? Now that we're back in the studio, let's take a look at how this performed. Opening up the sports section of the app, you can see straight away that it's recorded exactly where we've gone in terms of route. Now, this is because we took a phone with us, which made sure that it used GPS. Without this, you wouldn't see the route that you've gone, simply because it doesn't have GPS built into it, which isn't necessarily a horrible thing, but it does mean that if you want to see this sort of map, you're gonna need to take your phone with you. Now, if we pop into some of the options along the top, such as details, we can get further information about where we've gone, things like pace, calories burnt, the average speed. Now, a lot of this will be taken from the Mi Band 3 itself because of the pedometer, the accelerometer inside it, whereas some of it will be taken from the phone's GPS. So together, it's quite handy, and you get a really good idea of how hard Ash was working. As you can see here, it was 11 minutes of intensive exercise, 3 minutes of light exercise, and the lazy git spent 2 minutes relaxed, which is, quite frankly, shockingly lazy. But if we pop into the next section, pace, we can see in terms of the miles, his pace during those particular miles, which is good if you're training for a marathon or racing, because you can see pace mile by mile what pace you are going. Lastly is the chart section, and I love this. This is really, really detailed. It shows lots of different bits of information in graph form, things like your stride, things such as your step frequency, the altitude you're at, the average heart rate, and your pace. I love this, I think it's great. I'm a real fan of graphs and seeing how your performance was. And with the Mi Band 3, plus your GPS on your phone, you get a lot of graphs and a lot of stats about your run. So if you are training for something, the Mi Band 3 is actually pretty damn good for it. Now, interestingly, they say that this has the same battery life as the Mi Band 2, although it can do a lot more. Now, I would disagree slightly on this one. Not to say that it's a bad battery life, but I have here on my app, it tells me how long I've used it since my last full charge. And it says here that I last charged it 7 days ago, and it's currently on 36%. Which would mean that I've got another 30%. 7 divided by 2 is what? 3.5. That would mean it would last about 11 days. Now, they claim that it can last 20 days. And like the Mi Band 2, that really did last about 20 days of usage. So this seems to be coming slightly under what they're saying it's capable of. But like I say to most people about fitness trackers or smartwatches and battery life, when you're trying out a fitness tracker or when you've just bought one, you'll use it all of the time. You'll be looking at it all the time because you'll want to admire how beautiful it looks. You'll be sending notifications, interacting with it all the time, getting used to it. But as you become more used to these things, you'll use it less in that same respect. It'll always be on your wrist and it'll always be tracking your fitness. It will always be showing you notifications, but you'll be looking at it a lot less. You'll be swiping a lot less because you're used to it and you don't need to. You kind of become symbiotic with this fitness tracker. And you'll find that battery life will last longer the more you use it, up to a point the battery starts deteriorating, of course. But I've been using this extensively to test it out so I could review it. So would it get longer if I was used to it and didn't check it as much or didn't interact with it as much? Quite possibly. I can imagine it lasting around 18 days, potentially even meeting that 20 days that they recommend. But as it stands, just for your information, when you first get it, it might only give you about 10, 11 days of usage out of it. But what am I complaining for? That's a ridiculous amount of time to not have to charge a fitness tracker that does a lot more than just track your fitness. So actually 10 days is pretty good. Now the price itself, here's the interesting thing. So the Mi Band 2 used to be about £25–30. The Mi Band 3 is also £25–30. So actually they've kept the price the same and they've added some extra features to it, which is awesome. You can still get the Mi Band 2 and that's dropped to about 15 quid. But for 25 quid, that's not that bad. As usual, I'll leave a link in the description below where you can find this. This time it was from GearBest and it came in about a couple of weeks. So go and check that link out for yourselves. Overall, I was a bit uncertain about this because it does look different and I was so used to the Mi Band 2, and like I said to you right at the very beginning, that was a Stu's Reviews favourite. So I was a bit apprehensive about trying this and a bit nervous that it wouldn't live up to my expectations of Xiaomi and the Mi Band. And at first, again, I was still a bit uncertain. It took a couple of days to get used to it, but do you know what? I've been wearing this now for about a week. And yeah, I think it's a really, really good update on the Mi Band 2. It looks great. It feels great on the wrist. It performs extremely well. I'm really, really happy. And I think that this is such a good update to the Mi Band 2. And if you're looking for a fitness tracker around the 25 quid mark, this is definitely the one to buy. And that concludes my review of the Mi Band 3. Guys, if you liked the video, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe, and I'll see you back for another episode of Stu's Reviews soon.